here?
Yep.
Didn't somebody sit here?
I'm gonna move her
Where?
to your seat.
I noticed at this table.
No, you can sit right here.
All right. Thank you.
Where are the other modulators? There's one right here. Excuse me.
So Lucas, you're in 15. So my B-Day class is a little bit behind my A-Day class, so you already have done what they did. But she's out. 2, 3, 2, 1, 2. Mason Harris. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. Again, I know there's the bell to tell you when to come back, but there's not the bell to tell you when the tardy bell is. To start off class today, I need y'all to find number 4 and number 5 in your binder. So it feels like I haven't seen y'all much lately, just with last week being an 8 week and it being the first week. But number 4 was the book work. I think everybody finished that in class last time, but I'm going to give you a quick chance to ask any other questions if you somehow were not able to finish that up and you couldn't figure it out on your own. Also get out both worksheets that made up handout number 5. One of those was required for you to do last time I saw you, but the other one was not. So if you worked ahead and you have both done, then that'll be that much less you have to do today. But we have our first quiz coming up next class, so that is going to be Thursday. You've got 2 practice quizzes. That's what the number 5 is in your binder. You should have worked through one of those. So I'm also going to take questions from the first one of those because you should have checked your answers and you should have some immediate knowledge about if there's something you need more help with. I'm going to let you know how these participation grades are graded, and I'm going to ask that you start turning some of this in the Google Classroom, and I will explain why. But to start off, question 10 on the first worksheet, I ask that you give it a shot. And there's a number 10. There is a number 10 on the second worksheet, so I'm not going to go over that one with you, but it should be similar format as this one. All right, so questions 1 through 9, all look like stuff from the notes and from the bookwork, and basically just skill practice. But this number 2 is trying to get you to pull all of these skills together. And to be fair, if you don't start off your picture correctly, it is kind of hard to know how to get going on here. So within this problem, there was an earth. So you should have at least a circle. You know, the radius of the earth is given to you. So there's no reason you couldn't have that on your picture, even if you got stuck after that. We've got 2 cities, Fayetteville and Kansas City. And they have different latitudes, but they're on the same longitude. So if they're on the same longitude, you can imagine spinning your earth a little bit to where the angles or the cities are on the very edge of your circle. So this one's a little bit more than 34. This one's a little bit bigger than 39. So Fayetteville is the smaller angle, so it's closer to 0. And it is at 34 degrees, 30 minutes, 52 seconds. And Kansas City is at 39 degrees, 47 minutes, and 52 seconds. And then ultimately, you're trying to find the distance between these 2 cities. Now, if you set up your picture this way, you're much more likely to move forward in the right direction. Again, I'm not asking you to like pull out some kind of weird math that you learned years ago. That happens a lot in calculus, but not necessarily in pre-calculus. But if you want to know the distance between these 2 cities, you can't just use like the distance formula from geometry. That distance formula only works if the stuff is really close together. Stuff that's pretty far away, you have to take into account the curvature of the earth. But what do we call this distance in math? What's the math term for that? Arc length, very good. So ultimately, you're trying to find arc length, which we gave you a formula for. And I think you had to use this formula for questions 8 and 9. And all you need to solve for arc length is the radius, which has been given to you. And then the last hurdle is trying to figure out how big this central angle is. So how much of an angle do you need to open up between these? Now, if this is where you got stuck, what I would suggest is, let me just oversimplify these. Let me say that this is 40 and this is like 35. If this is at 35 degrees and this is at 40 degrees, how big would this be? 5, right? You're just subtracting those. That tells you how much these open up. So I really want to subtract Fayetteville from Kansas City, but it's hard to subtract degrees, minutes, and seconds from degrees, minutes, and seconds. So another skill that you had is changing this to a decimal by putting this in the calculator. Oops. And you needed to know how to do this for some other questions anyway. And I'm going to show you a calculator tip. So those of you that even if you got the right answer to this or you got pretty close, this is about 39.798 degrees. Okay, the problem with this is if I round this angle right now, and then I round this angle, this is going to be rounded, and then if I use that over here, then this is further off, and my final answer can be miles away from what it's really supposed to be. So one thing you can do is, I guess you can keep up with all the decimals your calculator gives to you, but that is a pain. So instead, it didn't seem like anybody in my A-Day classes had seen this before. But here's how I got that angle. So instead of keeping up with all these decimals so that you guys can keep your work exact, and this is good for all kinds of stuff, including the ACT, you can actually store this in your calculator, and your calculator does not round it when it stores it. It keeps the exact amount. So you need to be aware of this store button right above the on. If you hit that, then you can type in any letter after that, and it will store that in for you. So for me, this was supposed to be the angle for, is this Kansas City or Fayetteville?
Kansas City.
Okay, so I'm going to choose to just store it in for K, for Kansas City, because that makes sense to me. So now, anytime I type in K, my calculator knows I'm talking about exactly this. Not going to round until I absolutely have to at the end of the question. Again, you can keep up with all the decimals, and then that's good enough, but that's also, it's kind of crazy to write all these decimals down and type them in multiple times. Just store it in for K, there's Kansas City. Now, if I do the same thing for Fayetteville, it is 34 degrees, 30 minutes, and 52 seconds. And I'm going to store that in for F. Again, F is just my choice, but F for Fayetteville. So now it knows exactly what angle Kansas City's at, K, and exactly what angle Fayetteville's at, F. And so if I do Kansas City minus Fayetteville, now I have an exact answer. So if y'all look at, even those of you that did well on this, look at your paper, because I bet you rounded this, and so I bet your final answer ends up being a couple miles off. The actual angle in between these looks to be about 5.283 repeating. Approximately 5.28 repeating. Now, I don't want to write all 8 or 9 decimals. That's the whole point of rounding. Nobody cares about decimal 9 or 8 or 7, except that you need to keep up with it for your work. All right, so I'm almost done. I think I know this angle. I have it in my calculator. It's about 5.28. So if I multiply that by 4,000, you're going to think that you have the answer, but there's still one problem with what I'm doing. Why multiplying these two won't give me the correct answer? Right, this formula only works in radians, which again, you've already been tested on that on question 8 or 9 when it was just a skill, but I need to convert this to radians. And so I'm going to multiply that by pi over 180. So that's the exact number of radians. It's not rounded. It's not rounded anything yet. And if I take that central angle in radians, multiply it by the radius, then I have determined the arc length is, to the nearest mile, 369 miles. 369. So I don't give you any like fair heads up about the quiz, if this is on the quiz or not, but if it's anything in your notes, your book assignment, or on a practice quiz, it's certainly fair game for a quiz. So I know this one's harder, but don't be dismissive of it. But we like this because you're supposed to know how to deal with this arc length formula anyway. You're supposed to know how to change degrees, minutes, and seconds to decimal degrees anyway. You're supposed to know this formula only works in radians. You're supposed to know how to convert degrees to radians anyway. You're really just like pulling all these tools together to solve a much bigger issue. So you need to feel solid about questions 1 through 9, but then 10 is pulling these pieces together. Okay, is that okay? Y'all want any follow-up to that? If you got stuck on that one, you think you can do it on the next one? Number 10 on worksheet B? Okay. All right, so part of your classwork homework was to do this worksheet, so not B, just the first one, and to check your answers. And so since you should anticipate some or all of this being on your quiz next class, if there was something that you missed and you didn't see why, this would be your chance to speak up and ask. So is there any of these you want me to do a quick reteach on from your practice quiz? pause for just a minute because I know you may not have looked at it since last week, which is fine. Yeah.
I kind of forgot what the 3.7 means.
Okay, so if this was 3.7 degrees, we'd either have to use the degree symbol or use the word degrees. So if it doesn't say, this is implied radians. So to work this, you've got, I'd say, two popular ways. Do you know where pi radians is?
It's on the 180.
Okay, and pi is about 3.14. Well, then 3.7 is going to be a little bit bigger than that. That's enough to know it's in quadrant 3. Or you could take this many radians and change it to degrees, the other skill that we have, just a separate way. And this is the same as about 212 degrees. And 212 is also in quadrant 3. So just gives you some options on how to go about it. But no units, it's implied that it's in radians. Okay, others? Also, a few people had asked, or come by and asked, and I know it's the start of the year, but some people were wondering if the quiz was today, or they were assuming the quiz was today. And obviously, I'd rather you be prepared for it and then it be in next class or whatever. But just so you guys know, because I don't want you to be in the dark, I asked you to bookmark the class website. So you should have this bookmarked, and in the top right is the same agenda slides that I put on the board. So I think you can even click this if you want to see the full, and I think it should go straight to this. While it may look like you have a quiz today, that's for the 24th, which is your next class. We are on the 22nd. And it shows right here that your quiz is next class. So if you're ever unsure if the quiz is on the next class and you don't know if you need to be studying or whatever, just pull up on the class website. You can always find it right there. So. Okay, last chance on this practice quiz. Anything else y'all want to ask on that? Okay, then let's see what next. Okay, let me talk about if you do have any other book questions, I'll help with those as they come around. But for our homework grades, so last week in Google Classroom, I opened up several assignments for you guys to turn in. I'm asking you to turn in number 3, 4, and 5. Number 3 was the 4.1 notes, and I don't always collect the notes, but it should be freebie points, and I am collecting them this time. Number 4 was the bookwork, and number 5 is the 2 practice quizzes. You may not have the second one done, but you should have it done before you leave today. So as you finish those, go ahead and take pictures and put those into Google Classroom, please. And part of why I ask you to do that is it helps me and it helps you because I try to grade those early if possible. So like this class period, I'll probably get a few of them in. And so if you turn in your notes and it's missing a page, I will put in the comments, hey, I don't see this page, and you have a chance to fix that before it's due. So I need those turned in before we start class on Thursday. That is the red line due date. After that, it's considered late. You can still get half points, late credit, but only if you turn them in before the next test. But with you guys turning in your first homework assignments, I want to be clear on how these get graded because there's pretty easy points, but if you're not doing certain things, then your grade can be penalized. So I just want to be clear on that. So with these out, just scan through your notes real quick. That's handout number 3. Make sure that you have everything done. You didn't miss anything. Maybe if you went to the bathroom or something, did you watch the class recording to get what you needed? And there's 3 pages. But assuming you've got all that done, that's an automatic 100. I'm going to spend about 10 seconds, 15 seconds scanning to make sure it looks like you got everything. Easy 100-point assignment. Do the same thing with your book work. Make sure that you didn't skip a question and forget to go back to it. Make sure you did the vocab check. And make sure that you checked your answers. If everybody else on the last question did 5 steps and got some number, and you have no steps and have a different number, then I know you didn't check your answers to your work. That's also problematic. And then same thing with number 5. If you have those fully complete, you don't skip any questions, you checked your answers, you made corrections, then you will get full points. But the part that you need to be aware of, so that you don't feel like you're being cheated here, when we grade these, me and Miss Thomas, the 2 pre-cal teachers, grade homework the same way. There's only 3 different grades that you can get. You get a 0 if I never see it. You get full points if in my 15-second scan it looks like you did it all and it looks like you checked your answers. I don't see a bunch of wrong answers that you didn't follow through on your homework like you were supposed to. Or half credit. So the only way students are upset about this is if they don't do a question or 2 and they say, well, why did I get half credit? I only didn't do 1 or 2. Well, you should have done those 1 or 2 first. There's plenty of time to ask questions. Part of your studying for a quiz is to look back at those things. So if you're not looking back at them to realize that you didn't answer them, that's a whole separate issue. And we provide most of the answers or ways to get the answers. So that's it. 0 if I never see it. Easy 100 if I do, and it looks like it's all there. But if you're missing something and you don't catch it and you turn it in that way, then it will be half credit. So, and then of course part of that is too, like, you know, in the past if we didn't do that, you might think you should get 8 out of 10, and I think it's 7 out of 10. This way there's no argument. You know before you turn it in if you're going to get full credit or not. Likewise, if you just don't do one question, but that one question should take you 10 minutes where the other questions were 30-second questions, then it's not really just one question. Just the way those are weighted vary a lot. So we put that in your hands. So you know if you're going to get a 0 by not turning it in, full credit if it's complete and you do what you're supposed to do, or half credit if you miss some and you never follow through on doing that. So any questions about that? So again, part of why I like you guys to do the Google Classroom, because as you guys start turning this stuff in and as I start grading it, if I see before it's due, hey, you forgot to turn in this page, or hey, you forgot to do this question, I'll put it in the comments and you have a chance to fix it before it's due and you can still get full points. I can't promise to always do that, I try to, but y'all should be doing that for your own work anyway. So, promise it's pretty easy, but just don't let yourself lose some careless points. And of course, even if it does accidentally happen a few times a semester, it shouldn't be enough to lower your grade overall. If you make a habit out of it, then yeah, you probably will have a lower grade at the end of the semester. Okay, so you guys got a couple things to do. This class, although I haven't seen y'all in a while, this class should be a little bit more relaxed than our first couple, because most of you only need to do the second practice quiz, which is very good to do, especially since you've had the weekend. Check your answers to the website, see how you're doing. If you're getting half of them right, you're probably going to get about half of them right on the quiz. And I kind of doubt you're going to be happy with 50% on the quiz. So that shows you which questions you need to ask about or study. And get those turned in Google Classroom, please, so I can try to give you feedback. And then that's it. So some time to review your stuff, make some notes and study for your quiz, and whatever your system is for remembering that kind of stuff. You've got a planner for class. Update that you're going to have a quiz on Thursday. That will be at the start of class. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I do not take questions on quiz day or test day. As you guys will see, you're going to have plenty of time to get your questions answered and to study. So if you aren't doing what you're supposed to do in class, and then you decide to study outside of class, that's great. But if you realize, man, I should have asked this, this, and this, you're going to miss out on your opportunity. I do not take questions on quiz day or test day. The real issue becomes, like, whatever I have planned, the quiz should take about half the class, and you might think, well, my question's only 30 seconds, why can't you answer my question? But if I let you ask a question, I have to let everybody ask a question, and then that throws off the whole plan. You guys have time to do it, so as long as you're doing the way I ask you to do it, it's not an issue. But I just don't want you to feel caught off guard. So be working on those things, please, in that order of the agenda, and I will be coming around. So if you do have some questions from either your first practice quiz, second practice quiz, questions about grading, questions from the bookwork, anything that I can help you with for this class, just call me over as I come around. Yep. Oh,
Might be on the wrong one.
I'm sorry, maybe I didn't open them up yet in your Google Classroom. Give me just a second to see.
Alright.
Is the fourth period. Right. Sorry, I do not have these in Google Classroom. So the first one is number 3, the 4.1 notes. And that is due before class starts on Thursday. So that will be 11:35. Okay, if you refresh Google Classroom, that should be up now. And the 4.1 bookwork. Thursday, 11:35 is now opened. And number 5. Both worksheets. Last chance for full points, Thursday at 11:35. And that one should be open. So let me go around and see if I can help anybody with math stuff. Then I'll try to get a few grades in. So either you'll start to see some grades show up in gradebook, or you'll get some comments back in your email knowing that something was off on it, and you get a chance to fix it. Yes, you would make that. That would be where you type that in, and then you have to find the command that says arrow BMS, and then we'll change it for you. Sorry, what is your? Okay, so for the odd answers, the quickest way is to go to the back of the book. We've got all the odd answers. We try not to give too many even questions, but the only way I know to check even easily is if you go to the class website. I've got the videos of all the questions. Just like pull up video 40, skip to the back, and if you've got the right answer, you can check it off. And if you don't have the right answer, you might start the video over and answer the question. But the odds, I would just hold it back. We usually do it after the final scan, but not on your quick Well, all of these things you should be collecting on the binder. You have how these are all numbered. You should have number 1 on top, number 2 below it, number 3 behind that, number 4 behind that, and 5 behind that. Just having all that stuff numbered is a key letter. You have the Lightroom, the binder. It's what you got. Number 1 is the syllabus. Number 2 is the one that told you what I should sign up for. Yep. Okay. So this formula lets you pair up arc length and radius, and then we can use this to find the second length. So what's your arc length? of this, and you're trying to divide. Feet, cantaloupe feet, and then forward and left, that's how I know it's all radians. And I think this reduces to 4 this. So it's that same formula, but it's not just for solving arc. You could solve for radius or you could solve for central angle. Yep. They all go away, it's radians. Anything? Anything I can help with or clear up? Anything I can help with? No. You did the second practice quiz?
I don't.
Okay. Did you take your answers on the website?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
I'll write this out.
You ready to take the quiz? You don't need to study or practice them again, or?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
Just like this time.
Do you still have the handouts from the first day? Number 2 in your binder should show. They had all the keys for all the classes on there, so you just need to sign up for 4th period. Sorry, I didn't think about you being in class yesterday to tell you. I didn't figure it out for that either. Any other practice quiz?
Yeah, I'm taking off those.
Okay. Anything I can help with?
Heart and ankle.
Okay.
Like, so, I don't know what this question is. Like, I know it says on the radian, what's the central?
Okay, so central angle is how big is that angle at the center of the circle?
Okay, so it's theta.
That's correct. It's asking you to solve for theta. What information does it give you?
So if the radius is 3 centimeters, right? And the arc length is 7.
Okay.
How do we find that?
Well, we have one formula that pulls all that together. S equals arc theta.
What is x?
S is arc length.
Okay, so, but that needs to be in radians, right?
Arc length is a length. Inches, feet, miles.
Oh,
It's not an angle.
That's what I was messing up.
Only theta has to be in radians. But you'll see if you plug in that arc length for S, that radius length for R, and then you solve for theta, you divide both sides by something. All of your units go away, and when you have no more units, it's radians. Which is what's different.
So 7 equals theta.
Okay.
So if I
Divide both sides by 3 centimeters.
that's 3/4. 1 and 1.
Just
2
leave
and 1,
it.
2.
You don't need to change, just leave it in proper fraction. That's better. Okay, and centimeters divided by centimeters. So now it's radians, and you have no more units, it's now radian.
So 7 over 3.
7 over 3.
That's
Great.
standard?
That's it.
Oh,
I mean, you could think of it as a decimal if you really wanted to. But again, you have to know pi directly to the left is about 3.14, so it's less than that. And then I guess you could, if you were just really curious, you could change it to a degree. About 134 degrees.
yeah, I was way overcomplicating that. Thank you.
You on there? Got them all turned in?
It's
You don't need to study? Okay. I don't think so. Let me see if I can see it.
I would think your stuff will still show up in the other class, and so I don't want you to have to do that. I guess it did pull you. Let me see if I can. Actually, would it be a lot easier than this? Do you have them out?
Let me just see the physical copies and I'll put them in that. I don't want you to have to go all over the place. 5, 4, what about the notes? You have those with you?
See if you have those. But these two I'll put in. One second.
Now again, just doing that second practice quiz isn't going to take you guys very long, especially for a 90-minute class grade. So unless you're ready to like start the quiz now, you should use this time to study. Make sure you know what you need to know.
Well, if you added just one rotation, one revolution, it would be -40, and it says find a positive one, so -40. So they just added it twice.
I've got a pass up here. You just need to leave your phone and put it on the board. I do. Fair enough. Is this light on my desk? I have extra calculators, by the way, guys. So if you ever need to borrow a calculator, and all 10 of those are out, I have some others. You just need to let me know. But when you guys see the quiz on Thursday, I think you will see that it's very similar to our practice quiz. You know, we don't do a practice quiz on every section this year, but I think it's good for you at the start, because this is a lot of information. But you should feel well prepared for this quiz. I don't remember my 5th period classes average, but yesterday, you guys realize we had a lot more A days than B days. A days quiz average yesterday, or first period, was like 91% or something. So they did very well on it. Y'all are doing the same stuff. You can do very well. But thinking big picture, this is also 1/3 of your first test. We'll do sections 4.1 this, and 4.2 and 4.3, and that will make it your first test. So if you feel really well prepared for this,
It should mean a good quiz grade, but it should also mean that you don't need to study for this part.
when the test rolls around.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a couple of these grades in Google Classroom real quick. So as you guys find questions you want help with, just have those ready to go for me, please.
This is 1 through 5 right here. Did we go over this one?
We didn't.
The what speed? So
I told you you could take that one off your assignment.
So it's just 1 through 4.
This is 1 through 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I should take it off.
Thank you.
Same thing when you check your answers to the practice quiz. I think there's like questions 11 and 12 that we used to make students do at the start of the year that we don't anymore. So
Alright.
you can just ignore those. Yeah, so I was emphasizing about how you need to make sure you have every question answered to get full points on your homework. Of course, the exclusion is if I tell you that you don't have to do a particular question. So for us, vocab check question 5, I said you weren't responsible for that because it didn't have anything to do with what we were doing. So that's still true. You don't have to go and figure that one out when it has no relevancy. You still get full homework points. Now, if you don't do vocab check question 4, you're not going to get full points. But
Fill this up.
Yes. Need to sign out for the pass though. All right, so for those of you that turned in that stuff right away when I mentioned that or opened those up, you should already either have an email if I saw something that looked off and you have a chance to fix it and still get full points as long as you fix it before class starts on Thursday, or you've got the grade, the full grade in grade book. So again, I can't promise to always check it for you. You're still responsible to make sure that it's fully complete. But I know stuff happens, so I try to do that for you. Now, if you didn't turn yours in the first wave, then I just haven't got it yet. But I will be making some rounds again, so let me know how I can help as I come around. How your classes going?
They're alright. I got moved up to AP Physics, so I'm a little nervous for that.
You better start working.
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
I'm already.
Some of this may help though.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It might come in the like my English class, I'm kind of dreading if my class sucks. Other than that.
Specifically why? What do you not like about it?
Oh well, I have 2 teachers now instead of just 1,
Okay.
and
How's that a bad thing?
they're just kind of have different teaching styles, so it kind of like they clash heads a lot. So it just gets on my nerves.
Well, do all your teachers have the same teaching style that I do?
No.
And you do this fine?
Or yeah, but they like dicker with each other during class.
That sounds entertaining. You don't have any math? You're good? You ready? You have math questions I can help with?
So, just I find this one first, then I find this one, then I subtract it.
Okay, this was at 40 and this is at 35, then the central angle would be 5 degrees. Now you have to change out the radians before you use this formula.
Okay. So this would be cool.
You're okay? Any math questions I can help with? Okay. That might have been like the first day we hadn't done the notes yet. But
So
now
those are
we
all
should-
that you go back and do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, I try not to bug y'all too much, but until I trust that you'll ask questions when you need to, I will bug you a bunch, so. Anything in that I can help with? After you watch that, if you see any trouble. Y'all done?
think on the solutions, sometimes they like get a common denominator and call it 3 pi minus 1 all over 3. But that's not more simplified, so there's no reason to do that. It's out there.
Leave your phone or put the name on the board until you bring the pass by.
Where's the restaurant?
You'll need to wait for the pass to come back, but he should be back in just a minute.
Just either leave your phone up front or take it on the board if you bring it outside. You want your wish for the footwork? You want to say you do another big one?
No.
Okay.
I can come in with these
This all looks like that's probably his room. Can you take pictures of it? Okay. I was just going off your comment. Well, if you haven't checked all the answers, you will need to do that. So, let's get it over. Quick to check the audiences because you can just go to the back. Session 4.1. Okay, so there's all the audiences. So any of those that you're getting something different on, you can look at again. And then for the easy questions, you'll have to go to our website, click on the video for the even ones, skip to the end, and then you can look at it.
once I get the value of the difference between these two, how do I convert this number to radians?
Well, how did you convert that number to radians?
Oh, same way to as
Yeah.
degrees. Oh, because it's
Same
okay.
skill.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Can I use the bathroom?
Mm-hmm. Either leave your phone or put your name on the board till you bring the pass back. guys, we're down to about 6 minutes together here before you're dismissed. But if you borrow the calculator and you're not using it anymore, please go ahead and start bringing it back. Again, our quiz will be at the start of class on Thursday. Again, I begged you for questions multiple times, but I do not take questions right before the quiz, so make sure that you're prepared and not planning on that as a strategy. And if you've not turned in 3, 4, and 5 in the Google Classroom, you can still do that for full points up until right before class starts on Thursday. So you can turn them in during advisory tomorrow. You can turn them in Thursday morning. But of course, the longer you wait to do that, the more likely you are to forget about it. So something to keep in mind. And even if you think you're ready for the quiz, I still think it's a good idea to even just review for 2 to 5 minutes. Just looking over your stuff, looking at the questions you thought were the hardest, whatever. So put an alarm in your phone, reminding you about the quiz. Update your planner, whatever your system is, to remind you of those things. Then please do so.